This is a media police post from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic, and because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and in the words of Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil, and for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test. Two, another confirmed truth is that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground-truthed. We will monitor columnists, we will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists, we are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free. On today's show, we will discuss either our favorite columns of last week, our columns which reflect unformed and uninformed opinions, and columns that made you stupid. These are columns that A, fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are, not as they are, or that are based on conjecture history. And C, lastly, ones that smack of envelope journalism. Welcome, GK and 2J. What will we be reviewing today?
Well, thank you. Today, I want to explore political engineering, inspired by an article in the Daily Nation today. It was titled, William Ruto's About Turn on Party Merger. It was by Patrick Langat. In it, he declares that Ruto is a changed man. From a staunch advocate of merging political parties, the DP has now surrounded himself with political party leaders that appear to have no plan to dissolve their outfits. This inspired a thought. Ruto appears to be mimicking Kibaki's 2007 method of coalition making with PNU. But will it be successful for him? Two things are playing out in the run-up to 2022 that we ought to learn from history. One, political engineering seems to be all over the place right now. Historically, many times the Kenyan opposition failed to form a cohesive alliance. It was factionalism among the opposition that prevented them from presenting a unified front against Moi and KANU in the 1992 election and the 1997 election. In 1992, Matiba denounced the idea of a single candidate as undemocratic, using a slogan, "Let the people decide." Odinga and Kibaki accepted the principle of fielding one opposition presidential candidate, but they could not agree on which of the two it should be. In Moi's time, this plan to have everyone run and force a runoff was actually deliberate. By splitting their vote, he consolidated his power. The key question in this, therefore, is a runoff therefore inevitable in 2022?
Yes.
If so, how does one position themselves to take advantage of it? That's one thought I was having. The second thing is a political party should be more than the vehicle for the political ambitions of its leader. And this is something Ruto ought to pay attention to. So consider that in 1991, the Democratic Party of Kenya was founded by Kibaki. The Democratic Party, also known as DP, was associated with big business and the Kikuyu power elite. DP clearly undermined KANU's power among the Kikuyu when many of them defected to DP from KANU. Even though the DP claimed democracy as part of its party's name, it did not pay much attention to democracy, but it concentrated on the old Kikuyu oligarchy. This is why Kibaki came third in that 1992 general election. It focused on the wrong thing in that context. So why is this important? Well, William Ruto seems split between two masters, two ideas, if you will. Ruto speaks of the hustler nation, but is really beholden to elite interests.
Yeah.
If he continues to pander to his populist narrative, will he inevitably lose the support of the owners of things? And the longer the hustlers interrogate bottom-up economics and all that, will they find that it is in fact nothing new? And it's only a matter of time before this alliance of convenience that Ruto has created is actually exposed. I say this because Kenya is still highly ethnicized as a nation, and class as a social construct or identity tends to come secondary to ethnicity. So the game here, I believe, is still who will safeguard political and economic interests best.
So true. I agree.
Today, I would like to call out the intellectual dishonesty of former Jubilee Deputy Secretary General Caleb Kositani. The Standard today quoted him as saying that BBI is merely a 2022 poll document which does not address national cohesion as promised. The Soy MP is being dishonest. He knows that people are unlikely to fully appreciate the import of certain key provisions and are even less likely to go a step further to appreciate these provisions in the context of our history.
Yeah.
The only national cohesion Tanga find appealing is a RUTO presidency with concentrated powers at the center, which is why they are trying to deceive Kenyans about BBI. President Kenyatta, however, understands that there is a multiplicity of complex issues at play. He has the unenviable duty of striking a delicate balance that takes account of our history as a country, the politics of the day, and ensuring he leaves the presidency when the country is more united than when he found it.
Yes. Yeah.
Ruto, on the other hand, is only obsessed with becoming president. Let us be honest, the question of national cohesion and inclusion didn't start with BBI. In fact, BBI is a culmination of a national conversation that has been going on for over half a century. Let us recall that part of the strategy of the Muzungu in that season of subjugation we call colonialism was a strategy of divide and conquer, and they deployed it to devastating effect. They weaponized our ethnicity against us and institutionalized systems designed to keep us fragmented.
Yeah.
Both the 1963 Constitution and the 2010 Constitution have made efforts to address this.
Yeah.
The drafters were always aware of the problem, even though designing a perfect solution was elusive. If you look at the 2005 final report of the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission, it acknowledges that the divisions among Africans were partly the result of restrictions that prevented the establishing of countrywide political parties. Parties were district-based, which inevitably led to ethnic or tribal parties. Tribal consciousness was stimulated, while the spirit of nationalism was crushed by the colonial policy. This strategy was so effective that decades later, cohesion still eludes us, and we have not yet fully answered the national question. It is therefore dishonest for anyone to say that the discourse about national cohesion and inclusion is only about 2022, or that it is about President Uhuru and Raila, when it really goes as far back as the pre-independence period. The issue of representation featured in negotiating the constitutions of 1956 and 1958. Initially, it was about different racial groups, Europeans versus Africans and Asians. By the time we're getting to 1963, the Independence Constitution, the issue of representation shifted from being about race to being about ethnicity. The smaller tribes at the time feared domination by the larger tribes, and they wanted to secure minority rights. They believed that the best solution was a parliamentary democracy and devolution of power.
Oh, yes.
Both of these feature in BBI, which seeks to deepen devolution and hold the executive accountable in parliament. Our founding fathers were absolutely right about the solution, but I humbly submit that they failed in designing its implementation. BBI cures this. It adopts the right solution embodied in the right design, a model of democracy suited to our times and suited to our peculiar needs as a country in light of our history.
Brilliant.
Wow. Yes. I feel like we were on the same page this week.
Yeah.
Because my thoughts today are inspired by an article in The Star entitled "The State, Nation and Inclusion in Kenya," written by Larry Gumbe. In this piece, he writes about the use of negative ethnic attitudes in Kenyan politics. And Gumbe rightly identifies ethnic tension as the national question that is holding us back. But to answer this national question requires us to be painfully honest about our past. And I think CS greatly put that together. And this is a past that stripped Kenya of the dignity of building our nation based on our own heritage.
Yeah.
The modern African state is a product of Europe, not Africa. But we can fix that, and we have started that process. Devolution solved the problem of unfair resource distribution across the country, and in my view, BBI proposes to take it a step further by seeking to crack the ethnic question in our politics. Now, class struggle is not new. Nations have been destroyed and born because of socio-economic differences. That is a problem that William Ruto has seen, and he has made it a pathway to the presidency. And he's exploiting the difference between the Walalahoi and the Walalahai in Kenya for his own benefit. But if Ruto did some reading, he would learn that Karl Marx observed the following: The existence of class may indicate class struggles, but it does not automatically trigger them. So because ethnicity is a taboo in Kenyan politics, the deputy president has shifted to manufacturing a class war because that's the only way for him to take home the central Kenya vote. Fact. He needs the Kikuyu vote, but he cannot base his campaign on this. If RUTO has his way in 2022, the elections will be different from our previous ones. They will have class overtones as opposed to tribal ones. But we're simply swapping out one devil for another. And I'll admit, RUTO has been smart to position himself as a hustler, even though we know he is not. He's speaking to a portion of the country that honestly feels left behind.
Yeah.
But there is danger in this narrative. For one thing, anyone who is struggling for whatever reason might be tempted to hate their neighbor simply because they are doing better than them. And that is a recipe ripe for class warfare and violence. Let's take the Rwandan genocide, for example. The conflict between the Hutus and Tutsis did not start out of religious or tribal grievances, but economic ones. And gradually those differences became seen as ethnic labels. The genocide became a class war mixed with an ethnic war because both issues were stewing in the country. So what is my point? We are correct to eliminate the ethnic dimension from Kenyan politics, but the class alternative that RUTO is offering should be resisted. If we're honest and we look beyond the surface, we will find that the deputy president's campaign is not a class struggle at all. It is a struggle for power for himself, which involves telling the masses what they want to hear to drive a wedge between the people and the perceived elite for his own political advantage. This we cannot allow.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. Columnists, join us next week.